Producing a live event could be complex but challenging and could be scary, but if everything goes okay, could be an amazing way for you to promote your company, to showcase your products, to do lots of things that could be really interesting. And the good thing is it's made in real time, which is awesome. And today, to talk about this, I have Marisa Cali. Let me say it in the proper language, Marisa Cali, to talk about this. So stay there because I'll be back. So you could be, let me put this could be the feeling that you will get once you know that you have an event to manage. And today we want to make you feel like it's a nice feeling. Just let me see if I have a nice... Okay, let me stop. This is the feeling you should feel switching and realizing that it's not that difficult, or at least it's doable. And if you follow a process and you understand why you should do this, at the end it will be pretty easy and straightforward. But before that, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, to hit the like button, to send a comment, to say hello if you want. If you have any questions during this live show, feel free to ask them. Don't be shy. Otherwise, a panda could suffer in China hardly. So feel free to do so. You have some links in the video description to try, like StreamYard, for instance, so you can give a chance and understand the power about this amazing tool. You will find affiliate links, so if you buy from them, I will get a small commission, which will help me to keep my journey rolling. So let's bring to the screen. Let me do something here because I think I messed a little bit, but who cares? That's my middle name. So let me do something because I want to introduce properly my guest. And now, from the US, my amazing guest, which is someone that knows from A to Z, from 1 to 9, everything about live events. Marisa, how are you today?
I'm here. Yay. That was awesome. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you so much for joining this conversation, which I believe it's something... It was in my plans. I think do everything we had. Meanwhile, this was kind of going... being postponed, but finally we are here.
Yes. Yes.
And hopefully today we won't have any electricity problems here in Portugal.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
On Monday I was about to see, okay, let's see if the dinosaur starts flying across the skies.
Yes. End of times, right?
Yeah. Okay, Marisa, thank you so much. If you don't mind to introduce yourself, and then we can start our conversation.
All right, Marco, thank you for having me again. My name is Marisa Cali. I am a producer, event strategist, and energy giver. What does that mean, energy giver? I bring the energy to events, whether they're behind the scenes as a producer or in person, drawing people to booths or giving good hugs and really just being present for the conversations that matter.
Awesome, awesome. And let's start with that because this could be, I believe, one of the most challenging things for, I don't know, maybe 7 years or so. I was only a live streamer, okay, so I was not producing. And one of the things that it's more important, and this with COVID was pretty, how can I say, noticeable, is the fact that you need some energy. This is different than in real life events, that because
Mhm.
this is 2D only, right? So
Right.
providing that energy, it's pretty important, right?
Yes, I see a lot of virtual events because when I'm doing my today's Wednesdays, I try to do professional development days. So that's like, watching virtual events, consuming content, working on myself and my business. But I see, a lot of events where the energy just doesn't come through the camera, or people are very stiff, and it makes you not want to show up, or they don't sound good, right? They're muffled, or there's distractions. I mean, you get distractions. My dogs bark sometimes. That's not a big deal. It's when you cannot hear them, or they're not clear their face. So it just there's a lot of factors in that, and I think we sometimes forget how we show up on camera is really important just as much as we show up in person.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Mhm.
as live producers, sometimes we we see some things that kind of look awkward. But let's start
Sure.
this. Take some steps back because
Yes.
we should think about this. Why should we do this kind of events? Which
Mhm.
advantages? For instance, and I don't want to set a battle because we see
Mhm.
so many people setting battles between this and that. Because I don't think
Mhm.
that in real life events should be struggling or fighting the online
Virtual.
against offline.
Right.
For me, doesn't make
Mhm.
any sense. They are different.
Right.
They can work each other. But why
Mhm.
should we do this? Which
Sure.
advantages can we get from that? This some
Yeah.
thoughts about it.
So there's two reasons, and one of them, I'm gonna say accessibility. This is something that I'm really, I try to be vocal about. I live in a smaller town out of Nashville, and so as far as getting to in-person events and um, making sure that people are being shared information, whether it's to develop their career or something that's valuable in the space, so the industry that they're in, they can't always go to the event. They can't find childcare, they can't take time off of their day to day, whatever it is. But then they lose out on this content that could potentially change their life or help them level up. So I always feel like you have to provide some type of online content in the form of virtual event, in the form of pre-event content to kind of get to know your speaker, or even if it's just a quick. I just went to a virtual event that was an hour long. There was like 5 different tracks, and each session was about 11 minutes. Okay, so that's really quick, but like how much info is packed into that, right? And if they just said, "Okay, we're not going to do virtual anymore," none of that info is really being shared. There's no community building, all of that. So accessibility is one major thing because you can't always when people were doing in-person events, then COVID happened, and then people are staying home still. Yes, we're getting back in person, and I'm a big proponent of getting back in person, but it looks different now. It's a lot more like boutique style events, or that's where the biggest impact I feel like is happening, not this big room of 20,000 people. It's the smaller rooms of, even 50 to 100 people where you can have good intention. And then I mean, it kind of blends together, right? The second reason for virtual is different access points. So you have in marketing, I think probably when we got started in marketing, let's not age ourselves, Marco, here. um, but it was like, 5 or 6 touch points, and then they're sold, right? Like they know you, they need to know what you're about, they build the trust. But now we're looking at like 12 to 15, right? And then Substack's added now 16 and 17, right? There's all these touch points where people are needing to access the information if they can't access it live. Like we're live right now, and my hope is that people see it, come back to it. We can share it later on. I think you're going to repurpose it. And that can't be done. You can't keep doing an event every day, right? An in-person event. So you kind of have to have different touch points. And, that comes with a cost, but if you're doing it with intention, I think it's powerful.
Absolutely, yes. And the thing is, and this was kind of a struggle I had in the beginning, like selling the live streaming idea. Like,
Mm-hmm.
usually live streaming, it's a long form content, so you can, one of the good advantages is that you can repurpose the content, and
Hmm.
then you don't have to be fighting, struggling every day, what
Right.
should I post today. So you have that long form video that you can shop it and use it. And the other thing
Right.
also, which is nice, is the fact that you can interact in real time with the
Hmm.
person, and then if you have any questions, any doubts, you can ask them in real time. And this provides us a closeness feeling, but at the same time, and as professionals, for instance, we have this trust feeling, because that person is replying to us in real time, and
Right.
he or she is showing that he truly knows what the subject, which is awesome. Just let me
Right.
check, because we have here Mila, nice curious thing. Hello, Mila. Welcome. Uh, Mila, it's the short name from my mother. Okay. She's Emilia, and usually here in Portugal, way to shorten the name, it's Mila. So,
Well, hello.
hello, Mila. This is another nice thing about this live streaming thing.
Hmm.
So, let's keep talking about this, because yes, it's nice, it's good, but the thing is, it has some challenges. Uh, do you want to start kind of from the biggest and then talking about the smallest ones?
Yeah, whatever, wherever you want to go. This is your show, Marco.
Okay. Well, the thing is, uh, let's let's kind of, how can I say, break down the process. Okay,
Yes.
and first things first. I want Marisa. I want to run a live event remote. What should I?
Yeah.
Where should I start?
Okay. Yeah, we can. So, when I first start in any event in any project is what's the intention and what is, your purpose and what is your goal. Now, a lot of times this ends up being business therapy because people are like, "Oh, I want to live stream because this, when you talk about how much time it took you to set this up, you're a pro. It might not take as much time. You can kind of go on the fly, but that's after how many hours of live streaming and setting it up, right? So people always see the final production. And so they don't
Mm-hmm.
understand there's a lot of strategy involved and where are we going live to? How long is your live stream? What is it going to look like? How is it branded? You see the overlay here if you're watching. And I think that's where I would start in terms of a strategy. Um, you there are people that will say go ahead, just go live, and I think that is fine if that's part of your brand and that's how it aligns with you. But if you intend to use it in the future as far as long form content that you can be repurposed, I personally wouldn't help someone do that unless we are aligned on the end goals. So that's kind of like where I would start. And that doesn't really involve a lot of technical production discussion. It's more so, hey, like I'm going to be behind the scenes. I want to know what's going on. And so that I can align my technical and marketing expertise to your intended goals. Once we got that down, it goes into a technical standpoint. There's different platforms to use. There's different platforms to stream to. Um, where are you currently set up in terms of how do you want to get there? In terms of how do you want to go from static content like blogs and posts to live interactive content? And how will that be used? So those are all questions from a strategy point that we do, and that's generally can take, depending on schedules, it could take a month. a month of like back and forth, a little strategy talk. Think about it like if you're building a website, right? You could build an AI generated website in less than a day, but that's AI generated with not a lot of thought into. I mean, there's thought, but like how good is your prompt basically? So in this case, how good is
Yeah.
your prompt, right, for your show? So that's kind of where I would start. And a lot of people will not get there, or they'll start buying a microphone before we figure out that like, hey, maybe you need to go into a studio because that's the intended goal, right? You want to meet with people in person, but you can't have it virtual. Or if you're doing a virtual event, like, is it one track, 5 tracks? How long are the sessions? I mean, there's a lot of questions when it comes to that. And I think people rush to getting a technical solution before they answer all of those questions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is, sometimes they kind of they start. There's a saying here in Portugal that you say that you put the wagon in front of the cows.
Yes, right. Like chicken before, which hatched first, the chicken or the egg, right? Or what came first? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something really important, and
Hmm.
sometimes we see that people has no idea about some things. So I
Hmm.
believe that our job as producers, as educators, it's pretty important because, for
Hmm.
instance, there's a nice document called it Run of Show
Yes. Yes.
that it's pretty important, and this could be kind of this not could be it actually is the roadmap which will ease the work for everybody
Hmm.
because it has pretty nice information there. Do you want
Right.
to talk about the runoff show, Marisa,
Yes.
because it could save a lot of time and headaches to
Mhm.
all?
Yes, I use the run of show. I try to switch it up depending on who I'm talking to. I'll say show flow, I'll say agenda timeline. Obviously, all of these pretty much mean the same thing. But when you're working with different entities, like let's say a virtual event has an AV team, a producer, a community engager, and then all the speakers, you need to have a run of shows so that people are learning how the flow is going to go without questions, right? If they get into a studio in the back end, they know when they're going to come up, or when does their, I mean, they might know when their session starts, but what about beforehand? Do they want to watch the sessions beforehand to integrate that into their talk? And it gets everyone on page. It's like a project management, I guess, task. But really, it helps. I mean, I was at an in-person networking event yesterday, and we had 3 sponsors, and another sponsor didn't want to talk because they're like, I don't need to talk, right? And then we had
I'm
like an
already rich.
intro, and then I talked, but like we just had a quick like agenda, right? Like you have any meeting, any event, you have like a little agenda. Okay, we start at 5:15, then the sponsor is going to talk at 5:40. Like it's just very simple to get people on board so they're not standing there wondering what's going on, and defining, where they're going to actually need to be present for everything, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Hmm.
one of the things that it's listed in the runoff show are the
Hmm.
speakers.
Yes.
And it's good, it's great to have speakers, to have guests. But the
Hmm.
thing is, I'm not sure if the how can I say the people managing the event they don't give the proper guidelines. I don't think this is the main problem. I think the big problem is that usually the speakers they don't look to the guidelines and they forget.
Yes.
And this is something that we do these events, Marisa.
Hmm.
Thankfully, I had lots of guests. Most of them they do it pretty well. I see this more often in these events that speakers sometimes they don't realize the importance of being prepared about how these events impact their image as well.
Right.
Can you share with us some things about how important it is to be a
Hmm.
speaker on an event, and also not forgetting that it's not just about the PowerPoint or the slides that you're going to share and the amazing project
Right.
that you made?
Hmm. Yes, good point. I think there are some speakers that equate being on a virtual event to showing up to a Zoom in their bedroom and like with their bed behind them, right? Or I've seen a live stream. This was early COVID days, with someone, they had a pile of dirty laundry behind them. Now, this was not a professional speaker, so it didn't really like give them too much, you know.
And behaving like that, I believe that he will never be.
Yeah. However, that is not my responsibility. It's
Of
whoever's,
course.
on the same stream. But how can you showcase and tell people this is really important to your digital presence? Anytime you're on a live stream, it is important to your digital presence because you don't know who's watching, who you don't know who's gonna like see what they're on. And hi to Sarah Beth. I just met her on the virtual event that I was before this. So thank you for joining us.
Hello, Sarah.
Um, she's also in Tennessee, so we have that in common. But if that's not being talked about before when beginning, let's say a virtual event with multiple speakers, if that's not given a priority, and there's no, I mean, it's so simple to do like a tech check and a tech run through, an intentional 15 to 20 minutes of that. Make sure that they know the importance of it. And you can send email, list of all the things, but I
Video.
think there's something about you and I connecting right here, as well as me as a producer connecting with speakers or defining times, building that into your project to make sure that you can do that virtual check in. And if that speaker can't make that, well, how important is that speaker to the event's brand? And then not just themselves, but like, is it required? Right. And who do you want to speak on behalf of your event, right? Are you going to make it a priority? And there's ways to build that in. I think I've seen a virtual green room, and I know that the tool we're using now has that possibility depending on your level. A green room is great, or having someone else, hey, okay, come into the green room, this is what's going on. If you can't do a day before or a week before, this is what's going on, right? This is when you're going to get led into the room. And that, I think, eases a lot of stress when people are going live to a virtual event. So
Yeah,
there's lots of ways to prepare people.
absolutely. And the thing is,
Hmm.
and we faced this lots of times, I'm sure.
Hmm.
At least I've
Yes.
faced it, that sometimes the people they are pretty good about the topic they are
Hmm.
talking about, but the thing is they are kind of pretty nervous. This is, for instance, this happened in the first event I was producing. So we
Hmm.
had the dry run a couple of days before the event, and the
Hmm.
first lady, not it was not the first lady
Not the
Melania,
first.
okay, it was the
Yeah.
first lady talking,
Yes.
speaking. So she had lots of issues and challenging sharing the PowerPoint. And the
Hmm.
thing is, in the day of the event, same thing. It was like the dry run never happened. Okay, so this is kind of, well, it's funny, it's curious
Mhm.
because, and for instance, an event that we both worked was,
Mhm.
we had so many brains there, and they kind
Mhm.
of, when we expected that for them joining a live show and connecting everything and speaking was
Mhm.
easy peasy, it was challenging for them. And
Right.
I thought about two things. First is, there's, as, and we know that this happens, there's two different ways of using our brains and our
Mhm.
skills, whatever.
Mhm.
But at some point I realize, I hope they are not as bad as in their job that as they are doing this. Otherwise I'm
Yeah.
scared.
Right?
But the
Yes.
thing is,
I
and
think that that's the reality, I think, of a lot of people who have not ever done virtual events or virtual studios. Um, it's just people are in their silos of like, this is my job and this is what I'm, not going to explore. And that's also a result of their leadership team or people on their team. Like, are they looking to, have a little quick professional development day where they talk about their online presence, which happens to be sometimes when they're even going into meetings, right? Do you want to have a meeting where you can't see someone and like they're off to the side and like they're like talking like this, like they're not
like seeing the
engaged, right?
nose from.
Right. Yeah, the camera. I'm not going to move my camera. It's all set up right now, but like, it's that. I mean, that's a simple way of like even representing internally on a meeting, like how do you want to show up too? Like a lot of people don't care, they have the camera off, but we build trust through a video too, right? So imagine if Marco, all these years that we've known each other and I never had my camera on at all.
Yeah.
You would have a different
It
view
would
of
be
who
a,
I am, right? You
yeah,
you wouldn't
absolutely.
know, right? I mean, yes, you can build trust through voice only. It happens on podcasts all the time, but this is a different topic, and
Hmm.
we can say that showing up as yourself, looking into the camera, and making that connection is really important for any professional, no matter what level you're at.
Absolutely. And the thing
Mhm.
is, sometimes you go, you keep moving in the ladder because you show, and then people will trust, and then you can go to the next
Mhm.
step. At least it was how it worked for me. I think it was because I
Mhm.
was showing up, and I start having my chances, and then another step, another step.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's. But the thing is, as you said, you can do it with podcast. Of course, you can. But the
Mhm.
thing is, podcast, it's a different thing. Nobody is
Right.
supposed to. Well, right now we are moving to the video podcast. For instance, this one will be a video
Yes.
podcast. But the thing is, that if you are doing a live show, live video, and you're not showing up in the camera, it's
Mhm.
awkward.
Yes. Yes. Or if like my video is like, okay, you can barely see me. No.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm afraid of cameras.
Some people are, and my advice to people if they don't want to be on camera or do live shows is just keep doing it, or like having meetings that within your industry and practicing like this. Like us just this is a conversation between two professionals that know about live production and how to market your events through live shows or virtual events and stuff like that. So if you can have those conversations and be on camera, then it definitely gets more comfortable. And my advice to anyone being on camera is always like, don't rewatch the video, especially when you're starting out. Now, you share it to your audience so they can rewatch it. But as far as you watching, I think we get into that loop of feedback, right? Oh, I don't like that's not how I didn't like how I said that. I don't like how I looked on camera. I don't like, my ums or something like that. And, if we're talking to someone in person, we don't get the opportunity to revisit that conversation. So why are we doing it when it comes to video? it doesn't make sense to me because we look how we look in person, but on camera we're now more critical. It doesn't make sense to me. So it does take a lot of mindset shift in that, and being very intentional about not getting too far into our heads. But I think it can be, that mindset can change if you just keep at it.
Yep, yep. I think it differently. I think that you should
Okay.
watch afterwards
Oh.
because, for instance, I had this situation with my sister.
Mhm.
She asked me to help her recording a training,
Mhm.
and then she had some issues, and she just realized about the issue after I don't know how many recordings and I had. But you don't
Mhm.
look at the your recordings. No, I don't.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
should because otherwise,
Mm.
how can you improve? And the thing is, and you
Yes.
mentioned something really important, which is our judgment. Sometimes we are too
Yes.
picky.
Mhm.
We overjudge ourselves. This is my first
Mhm.
recommendation. Don't do
Yes.
it. Look, for
Right.
instance, look to people when they started. For instance, don't look to my videos right now because I have almost 10 years doing this. So
Yes.
I have the outcome of someone doing this for 10 years. But when I
Right.
started, and I showed my videos all the time, my starting videos, and I say, if you do as bad as this one, I will be frustrated.
Yeah. No,
Because
you
right
bring
now,
up a good point. It's, I think you should look back if you're not going to dive into the judgment. So
that's
it's,
it.
the personal judgment of maybe how you look. But yes, about improving, that's great, especially depending on the type, right? Like this training videos, this is going to go out to, your colleagues or your peers or whatever. But when it's us having a casual conversation,
Yep.
I,
Yeah.
I'll look back at it. There's something that I want to pull out, maybe make a clip of it, but not to, this is more of a casual conversation. So it's a different style of, content in that sense. And I don't want it to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to go live and look at, oh, I went live once and I didn't like it. So I'm not going to do it again. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's one of the problems. Sometimes
Hmm.
we have that first bad feeling, and this could be the end.
Right. It's done. I'm over it.
Yeah, but let's talk about something which is pretty important as well. Even though
Hmm.
the technical thing is not the most important, of course. And I
Hmm.
had this. The, I was doing a live show on Amazon, back to the Amazon Live days, golden
Yeah.
days, and we were talking about the gear. And I
Hmm.
was doing this co-hosted with Ryan, and he said, "Oh, okay. If the message you're delivering it's BS, it doesn't matter the microphone, the way,
Yes.
so forget about it." But let's have in mind that by this at this moment the message quality it's granted. Okay, so
Hmm. Hmm.
the speaker knows a lot about the topic, whatever. So let's talk about the technical thing because sometimes we take them for granted, like everybody
Hmm.
knows what they need, but the thing is most of the times this is not true. So which recommendations do you have for those people that are willing to set an event about
Hmm.
the technical thing, for instance, for speakers or even for them, so they can make this going smoothly, seamlessly?
Hmm. So, okay, I want to ask this question because are you talking about the technical stuff that we have as speakers or the technical tools that allow us to go live or both?
Both, yes.
Okay. Okay. Great. So, a while back and early in my production days, I created this live stream checklist, and it goes through all of those aspects of the technical hardware, which is your webcam, your lighting, your microphone. And then it also talks a little bit about your purpose, which I talked about in the beginning of this. But in addition, the software. Now, you and I are big proponents of StreamYard. We have used StreamYard for years now, And there's obviously a lot of different ones. For the hardware, I will explain what I'm using is a 1080p a Logitech Brio webcam, which I think is about $65 US, and then my microphone, which is about 250 US. And I'm sitting in front of a window with natural light. So I have a light
which is
behind
free.
me. Yes, this light is free. But I did move. So my desk currently is in the middle of my room. So my window is in the middle. It's like a long horizontal room. So now I move my desk so that way I can rely on natural light, one for good feelings and so I don't feel like I'm like in a dungeon. But my desk was pushed up against the wall and I had to illuminate behind me so that my screen wasn't the only thing lighting my face. So I used a mix of spotlights that were bounced off the wall. Some I won't use a ring light specifically because I have glasses. Because if you look at anyone with a ring light and they look into the camera, you can see the ring. So I always advise no ring lights for people who wear glasses. So those are the three basic things I think to get you, present on camera. And I have a little accent light. Now, this wasn't planned to put like match my outfit to the light. This is a fun light because I can change the color. There, I will change the color so it gives some dimension. And that's a simple, I think, $30 US light. So under under 400 US, you can get this started. And I think my camera on my computer does 1080p, but I don't know. I have been using this one. Oh, and another thing I have is this thing called Plexi Cam. So it's an attachment that has my webcam like sitting on it. So it's directly then I can move it. See, I can move it over here
Hmm.
instead of like and I can also tilt it up and down. So it's really good. It's a really good tool for people who need to directly speak into the camera if their person is right behind them. So they're not looking up at the camera here. So if I was looking at the camera on my desktop, it'd be up here. But now my camera is right here. So I'm looking straight into the camera. So those are four things that are really basic. And then as far as streaming software, I would recommend either Riverside for pre recorded content or StreamYard. But the biggest thing I think is really important on this is good internet. Um, I did a test session with a new client of mine that we're helping produce some video podcast content. And this was, many months in advance, right? And we're testing and we're going to use Riverside. We had the whole flow, everything, email, all the process defined. And we joined Riverside for the test and we realized that the internet is not strong enough to support Riverside because it's a live. When you record, it like automatically uploads in Riverside. So it's not, if they don't have good strong internet, I think their upload speed was like 30 maybe, or it was really low. It was just like not good, right? And I was just like, no, we can't do this. So we had to switch our process. And in that case, we're going to just record using Zoom because it's not a live. But if we were doing live, it would be really difficult to do a live event or live content with this particular situation because the internet was never going to be strong enough to go live. And I think sometimes people think about that after the fact, not before when we're building the strategy in the process. So
Absolutely. And
that's
let me tell you now that this is a real story. So I was doing live show, I don't know, maybe
mhm.
for 2 3 years or even more. And then I was watching a course about Be Live. This was maybe 2018 or before. And there was a section of the course that was upload speed. And then you should have, back to those days, it was around 1 megabyte or maybe a
Mhm.
little bit, two, whatever. And then I went to do the check, and I was At some point, I was even below half
Yes.
zero point
Point
0.5.
0.5. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I said, okay, thankfully I didn't need this before. Otherwise, I could be waiting for the right internet speed to go
Hmm.
live. And I
Hmm.
was not doing
Yes.
this. But the thing is, yes, if you want to have a proper image, a proper connection, you should aim to higher uploads. And don't rely on download speed because it's not important. The
Yes.
upload speed, it's the best one. But we need to talk about this. This is how we like to call here in Portugal the elephant in the room,
Yes.
which are the virtual backgrounds and the blurry
Ah,
backgrounds that of this life, like we like to call it here.
oh, yeah.
And they could be, don't get me wrong, for those of you those of you watching the conversation, don't, I'm not completely against them, but the thing is, first, they have some technical requirements. Okay, you have to have a
Yes.
nice light, a nice machine, which is important as well, a
Hmm.
nice camera,
Yes.
and sometimes they are more distractive than
Hmm.
to. I have this idea. If your background, in the worst scenario, it should be neutral to your message. If it brings some negative, how can I say, negative language, or if it takes away some authority from you, well, not so
Hmm.
bad, Marisa. Not so bad. Please avoid using virtual backgrounds. Your thoughts on this,
Yes.
Marisa, because this is kind of something.
Yeah, it's like that new thing that everyone wanted to do once Zoom had them during COVID. I think everyone was like, "Oh, I can't show my background. No, I have to put the virtual background." However, people forgot about their lighting. They forgot about how they have what they're dressed with, right? If I was wearing green and having my virtual background, I probably would be like just a floating head, right? So everyone knows that green screen thing, right? You've seen people behind the scenes with the green screen and then they put something. But if you think about a studio in that sense, they've got lighted green screen, they have light on your face, there's the right cameras. I mean, it's like a professionally done. Now, the streaming software and the meeting platforms are like, cool, let's do that. That's a fun little engaging thing. And I think it's cool if you have the proper technical requirements because we've seen people do that and it makes the video choppy, right? So you're
Yep.
you're moving around, my head's getting chopped off, right? And
Yeah, it
it just
looks
doesn't
like a
look good.
ghost.
Yeah, right. And I've had people, where they move, people naturally move up and down like when they're talking, they move forward, they move back, but that virtual background cannot understand that. It's a computer, right? So it's a computer image behind you. So it just doesn't work for me. I am against virtual backgrounds, and that we that big project we worked on in February and March, they are against it too. So I'm gonna go with that crowd, and hope that people stop using that weird image that looks like they have a big living room with white furniture and like a wood staircase. I'm like, what is this
and the,
virtual background? Like, who is that? you
and
know?
the piano.
Yes, right.
You froze.
I
I
froze.
th- yeah, maybe you
Oh,
should restart the camera or
I'll
something.
just stop and start. How about
Okay,
that?
it's the
No.
same. Oh my god. I
Oh
think
no, I'm
this
working.
didn't. Uh, okay, I'm gonna dance meanwhile. So,
Okay.
while you try to
Oh, I
fix
see.
your camera.
Yeah.
But yes, that's
See, I tried to do virtual background and it messed me up.
yep, yep. So that's one of the things, is that you may look like every other people. Okay,
I'm here.
so
I'm still here. Just drop
okay,
me off
I will
the
I will
stage
keep
and I
I
will.
will keep talking while you're trying
Yes.
to fix the
Yes.
camera
Go ahead.
issue. Next time I won't talk about it
Yeah.
because it was pretty tempting to switch to virtual background and suddenly
And you messed it up. I messed it up. I
but
missed
yes,
that.
this is one of the things. Um, for instance, I bought this thing, these
Okay, let me
props.
in together.
Okay, let's see what's happening here. Okay, we
Try
have
again.
Marisa back. Okay,
Is it
you're
working?
live.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good a tip. If this is happening and someone's frozen, I just opened up another tab and re-entered the studio because it wasn't turning off or turning on, dropping the stage. So this is a good tip for anyone who's listening because that's I've not had experienced that before because I just turned off the virtual background and then it froze me. So, and who knows what happened there. So,
Sometimes we don't know what's happening in the.
no virtual backgrounds.
Yeah, yeah. The best thing is avoiding them because
Mhm.
most of the times, 95% of the times, you don't have the right setup to make a nice virtual background.
Right.
That's a point. For instance, I have lots of lights. Okay,
Mhm.
my computer is not that bad. I have a green screen and
Yes.
a pretty nice one, and I can't
Mhm.
do proper virtual background, so I don't use
Yeah.
it. There you go. No, 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 no.
It doesn't
Otherwise,
matter, right?
yeah, I don't want to bring a distraction, so
Mhm.
that's how it is.
Yes. That works for me.
So having this already been discussed, I think that we can talk as well about uh, repurposing the content because
Yes.
this, as we said, this is one of the things. I'm gonna ask you your personal, how can I say, how you approach this personally for yourself and
Okay.
also for your customers. When you set a live show, for instance, are you thinking about this? Because this could be kind of against the live streaming rules, because
Mhm.
it has to be, in one hand, it has to be spontaneous. But
Mhm.
at the same point, if you are thinking about, okay, I want to repurpose this, for instance, I'm going to cover 10 things you should not do when you're live. And for instance, suddenly people coming and asking questions, and suddenly the 10 things they went up,
Right,
they
right.
vanished. So, how do you approach this?
Yeah, this is a biggie. I think it's the biggest part as far as the value that can come from any type of virtual content, whether it's pre-recorded live or like a series of virtual tracks. I think you really got to figure out what where your audience is and where you want to draw them into. Now, a lot of people will repurpose this and just post and like, look, I've been on this show, like go watch it. Now, a lot of times you're not going to get someone to go rewatch a whole video. Sometimes they won't unless they really want to learn from me or learn from you, you know, depending on who is talking. So, I like to leverage the current platform's trends. So, for example, on Instagram, if you're repurposing, you would repurpose a short clip, something that's been said that's really valuable. You know, maybe the clip is how you repurpose content. Now, you can take, you know, 1 to 2 minute clips and say, watch the full show on YouTube or you know watch the full listen to the whole show on on the podcast platform that you prefer. It just depends on you know what questions are you as the host or how are you planning your content to make sure that you can clip out those points, right? And if there is conversation where you get off the rails for your topics and stuff, then maybe you shorten that and repurpose it to a shorter 30-minute video that you upload to YouTube. Maybe not the full one, right? And I think I've seen this in a way where people are repurposing probably the most controversial topic of a live show or a podcast and making it into a shorts, right? And then they release that maybe right away or day after, but then the full episode, because it's edited and has some, different elements and visuals added to it, is released later on. So you kind of have to talk with a marketing strategist to figure out what works best for your strategy, who's going to manage that, cuz like you and I, were marketers but we're producers. Which role are we taking in this project, right? Or are we doing both, right? Because there could be a social media manager that just needs the content and they can figure out how to strategize for the platforms. But a lot of times, we need to understand the marketing background so that we can create a show that aligns with a specific platform or the intended goals of those platforms. So there's strategy involved. I will say that I'm not very good at repurposing my podcast video content because I want people to listen to my podcast. And that's my personal choice, even though we record in video. Just because I don't have the attention span for 40 minutes sometimes on videos unless the people are watching live. So that's just my preference, but it's also not, for everyone.
Absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a good point. And sometimes we need to set our, and I mentioned this in my podcast. Sometimes we need to make, how can I say, our statement, and this is how I like to do things, and that's how it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sometimes we are not here to please everybody. We have our
Mm-hmm.
ideas, so pretty acceptable. And
Mm-hmm.
we need to talk about also, because this is not, how can I say, something that we do and that's it. We need to
Mm-hmm.
promote, and promotion, it's crucial, because there's, this is funny because we have content to promote our business, but we need to promote our content. it's,
Right. Right. Yeah.
it's crazy.
And
So,
I think the
yes.
good point on this is I want to make sure that people, when they record content like this, whether it's recorded or it's them doing training sessions or whatever, it doesn't have to be right away. We are stuck on this, like, oh my gosh, if I recorded a podcast today, then I have to promote it tomorrow. And if no one watches it on Thursday, then I'm done and it's a failure. Well, think about how you can stretch 1 hour video into, like, and you mentioned this early on, how you can stretch the long form content out throughout a month. It doesn't have to be right away. We are stuck on this instant gratification. Like, if I post it today, then it's got to be watched today or tomorrow or it's done. Right. So I think, and this is something I need to remind myself about because I think you might be in the same book. We do our content, we prep for it, but then promoting it is sometimes the hardest for ourselves. We can tell people to do it
Yeah,
and we can,
absolutely.
guide people, but it's good that we have, this camaraderie. We know it's the biggest, I think, struggle for solopreneurs, solo owner operators to do all the things and showcase our expertise, but then promote it as well because we're busy helping other people, right?
Yep. And the thing is, you can share your thoughts about this as well,
Mhm.
because we are, and I had this conversation with Jim last week as well,
Mhm.
because there's this dictatorship about being going viral, and if we don't have thousands of views,
Yes.
millions of likes, whatever,
Mhm.
our business is condemned to die and to have a really bad death. And
Mhm.
the thing is, I don't mind that I have few listeners or few viewers on my content, because the thing is, sometimes they are the right person, they are the
Hmm.
right viewer, and
Right.
I'm good enough with that. So I
Hmm.
don't need to have millions, and we have this thing. It's again the instant gratification, or in middle term,
Yeah.
because oh, I'm having lots of views, but are they generating business for you? This is
Right.
the big point.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing when people are like, okay, well, how show me examples of what you've done and what is the general audience? And I'm like, this is the wrong way to start a project because you're automatically comparing yourself to other people. Now, when I share other projects, I do it with the caveat that each one of these projects has a different team setup, right? I might be working with a marketing team that can create good visuals, or that, provided everything and all I did was show up and do the technical producing. And then there's another show where you're doing the strategy and then that person doesn't repurpose it. Well, they didn't also hire me to market it, right? So it's like a hard way to say, okay, let's judge you on that. And I think that sometimes is the hardest part as a strategist and producer, to prove your value. But how do you do that? Well, you got to show up in your community and talk. I mean, you, Marco, I've never met you in person. You've never produced one of my shows, but I trust you because you show up, and we talk about things, and like I learned about you, and then it's good, right? So it's the same thing with any business. When you're working with people, you have to show up and be intentional with the time that you are there, right? And if you go dark, and that happens, people go through things, there's grief, there's lots of hardships, especially now, and you just kind of have to lean on your strength within as a business owner. I'm like giving a motivational talk right now, but it can be just one intentional connection, and it's good for your business, right? It's all in who you know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm.
So don't rely on hundreds of views and all these sort of things, because that's
Hmm.
not the point. For instance, I have this thought, and I share this story. Sometimes I was in a workshop about a given tool which
Hmm.
does metrics for social media, and they
Hmm.
were showcasing and showing statistics, metrics about their videos on TikTok, and they showed,
Hmm.
look, our average view length is around um, 10 seconds or 9 seconds, and they said, look, this means that we need to make shorter videos. And I thought to myself, just for myself, I didn't say it loud, even
Yeah.
though I really wanted, no, you should do better videos, because this is the point. If, for instance, right now I'm heating um, episode by episode Game of Thrones. Okay, some people they are
Yes.
watching just right now Game of Thrones, and they are around 1 hour. So if your content is good, it doesn't rely on how long it is. And the
Right.
other thing is, and just to end, because I believe this is an interesting topic. Um, Sometimes we have this thing that it's just about the length, about how long they
Hmm.
go. And are you buying from someone who just shares 10 seconds video? Are you building trust with 10-second video only? They could be nice for entertaining and to get a mood, but if you
Yes.
want to get married with that brand or with that person, you need to
Yes.
have something more, how can I say, some more meat than just 10 seconds.
Yes.
Your thoughts on
Right.
this?
No, it's true. Back to the point about the touch points, right? Like the 10-second video is great if you're good at that and you can do the trending stuff on TikTok or whatever, but it's going to take multiple times, at least for me. Long-term business is built in relationships and trust, and not off a 10-second video, especially if you're selling your brain, because it's not, oh, I'm going to see that thing, which is Play-Doh, right? And I'm going to play with it and then I'm going to buy it, right? And it's done. There's no relationship. I spent $1 on this or something, right? So I heard a quote yesterday and I'm going to try to remember it off the top of my head. It's money money isn't a problem if the value is not missing, or like money is only a problem if the value is missing. So it's the same thing when you're consuming. Time is money, right? So if you're only consuming 10 seconds, you probably won't enter into business with them right away, right? But you saw them, okay, you got to keep seeing them, right? Let me go do some more research. Oh, I like that video, right? But not everyone can do the 10-second videos just because they have creative blocks or they don't have that content. So it's a big, long topic when it comes to that. But I do not agree that that's not the I don't agree that that's the only way to build trust in business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And a nice way to build trust is to showing up and
Yes.
producing live events. It's an amazing way to showing up. So
Mhm.
just to summarize somehow our
Mhm.
conversation, three reasons why people should think about doing remote live production and live events.
Yes, three reasons. Okay, well, you build trust through video. Um, you can showcase your expertise in a more natural way, I would say. You can't get that from a static image or a blog post, right? Because when someone's reading that or visualizing it, they're going to read it in their voice, which doesn't always happen without video or audio. And then the third thing would be to get more comfortable with having sales conversations. I think that I came up with that because I think it's easier for me to open up those conversations about, producing events or creating events, that, when people see me on camera and show up. So building trust, you know, getting comfortable on camera, all that. I mean, you asked me three things, Marco. I don't know. Three things, there's a lot of things. Watch the whole thing, right? But, we're more comfortable on camera, and I think it's interesting to see that there's still people that are not even creating content online. I mean, I have scaled back a little bit, but I have no problem with being on camera for my podcast, right? And the podcast builds trust with other people and relationships. So it's a good way to get more comfortable.
Absolutely. And
Hmm.
where can people find you, Marisa?
Yes. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Marisa Cali, and that's Cali is the last name. One R, one S, Marissa. I am also on LinkedIn or Instagram at hashtag Marissa. That would be spelled out hashtag Marissa, not # Marissa. And I'm also on Substack. So that's hashtag Marissa.substack.com. So those are the best ways. And if you don't know those links, go to my LinkedIn and click on contact info, and it has all the information there.
Okay, and I will be putting in the show notes and in the
Yes.
description everything so you can find Marisa in a pretty easy peasy way. Thank you
Yes.
so much. It was, well, I think
Thank you.
we could stay the rest of the week talking about this
Right?
and all the things that happen. But we need to end the conversation. And one thing about content that I've learned is don't deliver too much because otherwise people won't get curious. And I want to keep you curious. So if you want to know more, you need to follow us, you need to hire us.
Yes. Yes.
Don't forget to follow the show if you are watching us on Substack. I will be delivering a blog post in a couple of days, so stay tuned. Don't forget to follow. Don't forget to follow Marisa as well. And I will be back soon, I hope.
Yes. No
Enjoy
power
the
outage for
rest.
you.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye bye. And see
Bye.
you, as I said, see you soon. Bye bye.